Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Vladimir Putin pushing young Americans and adult Americans into evangelical Christian churches. All right, so this is a field report from the front lines of the evangelical American Christian Church, right? Which is not a denomination; it's just a subset of Christians. Not all Christians are evangelical Christians. You can find other Christians in other denominations. That's the other thing, is evangelical Christianity really isn't a denomination. There are denominations with underneath evangelical. Evangelical Christianity is really a Christian grouping. It's not a specific denomination. And actually, my church is actually non-denominational, but they're very evangelical Christian. So basically, I'm just telling you what I'm seeing. All right. So first thing is, so February 24th, Vladimir Putin cracks the world in half and threatens the entire world with NW arcs, fundamentally changing the entire shape of the world for probably 25 to 50 to maybe 100 years. We'll see. And 1 week after that, I'm sitting at home and I finished my work day and my wife's gone and everybody's gone. I'm like, oh, this is kind of weird. It's like a Tuesday. Where is everybody, right? So about an hour and a half later, I'm like, I asked my wife, "You're all back. Where'd everybody go?" And she's like, so we have a senior, high school senior and a high school freshman, right? And she's like, kids were at a new, youth group tonight, right? And, and she said, I went to ask you earlier in the day, but, your day was kind of full up, and so I just made kind of an executive decision, and she did. Generally, when we make church decisions, like our kids go into other youth groups, because our church has a youth group, so I don't really like my kids going to other youth groups, and I'm the spiritual leader of my family. I have to make theological decisions. I always discuss them with my wife, but this is something I've stood against. I'm like, no, I don't want our kids going to multiple youth groups, right? I've put my foot down, and then my kids are in a million youth groups. And the reason why is, actually, it's one of those things. I feel very strongly that kids should go to their own youth group and not go and get, spiritual guidance from, X number of churches. I think it's a bad idea. But my kids do it all the time. And the reason why is I love my kids, and they get these invitations from their other friends, right? So I think theologically this is a terrible idea, but that gets trumped by Scott loving his kids, really. So this thing happens all the time that I really don't like, and that I really stand against. But sometimes the world is complex, right? In fact, a lot of times the world is complex, right? So so it's it's definitely a thing. So we get this. And then I'm like, so 2 days later, I'm like, where is everybody? They go, and actually 2 days later, earlier in the day, my wife's like, our kids have another invitation. I'm like, wait, you're saying they're going to be at 3 youth groups this week? And she's like, yes, right? A little bit later, they get a 4th invite, which they can't go to because it's already on a night they're already going. So my kids are now going to 3 youth groups a week. This has never happened in the history of the Garibay family. So I picked up my son from he had a party he was at, and with all of his friends, and so there's one of the other dads there, from the school, and I was like, and I said, oh, but Leanne's running the kids to all these youth groups. He goes, my kids too. They're in all these youth groups. He's like, what the heck? Like, what happened? And the timing is it came exactly a week after, Putin. And so I think what's happening is, Putin is terrifying everyone. And all these young people are like, where I want to be? I want to be with my friends. All right. And in a Christian family, that's the thing where you can hang out with your friends and your parents cannot say no. Right. My son actually was like, apologies. He goes, I'm sorry, Dad, that you guys have to be running us to all these youth groups. And I'm like, son, if our worst problem is that you're going to too many evangelical Christian youth groups, then that's the kind of problem I want to have. It's not a problem, right? So I think, Vladimir Putin is terrorizing the world. We have a global villain terrorizing the world, right? And the kids are frightened. They're legitimately frightened, right? and rather squawk about it, right? They're getting together with their friends and spending time with their friends while they can, right? And I think that is awesome. It's actually a very beautiful thing, and I think it's a really good response from the different kids, and this is a great hack for them to hang out with their friends, and, you know, their Christian parents really can't say no, right? Like, a Christian parent really can't say, like, when your kid's like, can I go to church and get preached at by a young person and then sing one hymn and then play volleyball for an hour? You're like, yeah, you can do that, right? We'll take you, right? So, you know, it's just really weird, like, and so be very clear. Vladimir Putin steals from everybody on this planet every single day, even his own people. We have never seen there's no living villain like this guy. There are dead villains like this guy, right? Like, much worse, right? But there's nobody on the planet that's villaining harder than Vladimir Putin. He's got the crown right now, right? He's got the villain crown. It don't belong to anybody else, right? So the other thing I'll tell you is the people in our church, right? So I go to church every single Sunday, and I just tell you, there's one point where you look around, and we usually about 150 to 250 before the March 2020, right? And then we went down to 75, right, from the March 2020 problem. Once that stabilized, we were at about 100. We're hitting 100. We're hitting 130, 160. We're seeing families we've never seen. We're seeing brand new families coming in, and we're seeing families that are coming back that had left from way before March 2020. You know, like, we get people who leave the church, right? It's definitely a thing, and you know, and I'm glad to see him back. I don't know. Yeah, I'm glad to see him back. I get a little frisky when it comes to, like, because it's hard. My entire family serves in the ministry of the church, just keeping it running, and so it's rough when you see people just waltz back in when everything's clear, right? When everything's easy and they need, and they haven't served for, I shouldn't complain. Yay, prodigal son's back, right? Like, so just to let you know, Vladimir Putin is using a plow to plow people straight into evangelical churches right now. People are responding. They are frightened, and they are coming to consider, if not receive, salvation. That is a thing, all right? What's happening in your church? Or did you not go to church and now you are? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.